Welcome to Catch You Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modys. Contact email catchoutdoors@gmail.com. Website is catchoutdoors.com, and our Facebook page is Catch You Outdoors. I've authored a couple of books over the past couple of years. The titles are Bridge to Paradise and What I Know About Fishing Southwest Florida. They're both available on Amazon Kindle. Please go buy one. Thank you. Today's episode is number 19. There'll be a slight change with this podcast. If I have more to say, then I'm going to continue to talk. I've discovered that 30 minutes is sometimes long enough, and sometimes it's not. So starting with this podcast, I'll be adding a second mic for a guest, not every week, but whenever the mood strikes me. Today's special guest is my lovely wife, JoNell Modys.
Hey there.
Good morning.
It is such a thrill to be joining you on Catch You Outdoors.
I thought it was time. So, you're here at the house. It's very convenient. We're going to try a few of these to see how this goes. And eventually I'll be adding guests. But unfortunately, most of those are going to be during, phone interviews and things like that. But I thought it would be kind of fun to do this one. And the reason I decided that this was a good place to bring her in is the title of this particular, there I go again, episode is Boat Drinks and Appetizers.
Yum.
And we're both officially pretty good at boat drinks and appetizers. I'm good at boat drinks. She's really good at appetizers, and we'll be talking about that. Sun and surf are celebrated here in Florida. It doesn't really matter whether you're on the coast or living in the central parts of the state. We all love the outdoors, excellent food, delicious libations. Now, granted, not everyone partakes in alcoholic beverages in this state, but I'm betting without looking it up that those of us that like cocktails pretty much outnumber those that don't. That's just speaking for what I've seen. I've seen it. I've seen it on the beach. I've seen it in Lauderdale. I've seen it in Miami. I've seen it in Key West. I've seen it in Fort Myers and Fort Myers Beach. So I like to think I'm an authority, but being an authority on boat drinks is probably not the best thing in the world. If you don't drink, that's okay. Good for you. We'll come up with some recipes where you can just simply leave out the vodka, the rum, or whatever. And I mean, they're an awful. Actually, all restaurants right now have those, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do they call them? Virgin
Yeah.
cocktails. Yeah, they have virgin. And by the way, they're quite good because when I'm not in the mood for alcohol, especially early in the day, you can always order one of those. Not a problem. I've somehow managed to manage my love of a good cocktail. Does that make sense?
You've always been able to hold your liquor far better than I do.
Obviously, the trick is knowing your limits and when to stop and apply what?
Water.
Water. Lots of water.
Yeah, they say now drink at least one glass or bottle of water for every cocktail.
Yeah, I know. And especially in Florida, when you start dealing with the heat, which, by the way, we're recording this on the coldest day this year we've had in South Florida. I think it was 41 when we woke up this morning. But typically it's really, really warm here, and you really do need to add water and, of course, some food, which is why we're going to cover the appetizer thing. So please try not to act like an amateur when you're bar hopping in Florida. I've seen it. 2 words. Key West.
That's right. And well, the other thing is too, and you've talked about this before, Rob, in your boating safety podcast, please do not mix boating and drinking at the same time.
It's so funny you say that because my next note to myself says, in no way does this podcast approve or endorse drinking and driving. That also goes for drinking and boating or drinking and bicycling. You get the idea, right?
Exactly.
And by the way, in the state of Florida, you can be arrested with a DUI for being DUI on a bike, a pedal bicycle. Just so you know, it's on, and obviously boating can be a big problem. So please keep your drinking at the bar. And then if you need a cab, call one. If you need an Uber, call one. If you need a friend, call one. We're so lucky we live close enough to where we go, we can walk home carefully.
Isn't it great?
I know, it really is. Just so you know, Florida is not only called the Sunshine State, it's also pretty well known as the Roadblock State. I've seen that too. So make sure you got to get clear on these laws. I always like to mention how these subjects of my podcast come to be. And this one was due in part to a little book I own called The Essential Book of Boat Drinks and Assorted Frozen Concoctions. It was published back in 1997 for Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville store down in Key West. It's fantastic, and it's also highly collectible, in the tune of about $100 if you can find one of the original hardbacks. However, here's the good news. You can still buy it on Amazon. It's in paperback. Cost about $17. I went and looked it up. So there's your tip of the day. A lot of the concoctions that I like and enjoy, a lot of the ideas for mixing things and making a delicious, especially frozen cocktails, is in that book. And it's also hilariously funny. It has little quippy things about what not to do and what to do and stuff like that. So check that out on Amazon. I spent many an evening poring over the many recipes in many different books. Oops, wait, that's another pun, wasn't it? Poring over
Yes.
many recipes. I managed to do that.
Did you plan that in advance?
No, I
That
tried.
just popped right out.
It just popped out. Anyhow, let me grab my book here. Hold on one second. I got it right here beside me. I got to do some reaching. You can tell this is live and not edited. Let's see. How about A History of Bloody Marys?
Interesting.
It's in this book. How about a drink called the Pirate? You're supposed to go,
Arr.
You missed your cue.
I know. Maybe I need a few drinks. Losing me up.
After one of these, you'll discover a whole new occupational hazard. 2 jiggers of dark rum, 1 jigger of vermouth, dash of Angostura bitters. Wow.
Angostura.
Angostura, thank you. Fill shaker with shaved ice, add ingredients, stir, and strain into a glass. They've also got one right after that called the Plank Walk.
Aha.
This is a great little book, so highly recommended. Do it and look it up. All right, here we go. I'm going to give you some. Sorry, I banged my mic stand. I'm going to give you some of my favorites. All right, ready for this? At the top of the list is the simple martini. I think JoNell will tell you I have been drinking martinis way before they were popular. Well, no, I didn't. They were popular in the 50s.
I was going to say, did
When I
you
was
drink
born.
one out of a baby bottle?
Might have. But it's really interesting to think that they were there. They wound up, of course, James Bond movies. Then they made a huge resurgence. When was we were over here, weren't we, in the 90s?
Probably late 90s.
Late 90s.
Yeah.
That's when the martini made this big comeback, and vodka suddenly filled the shelves. There were, for a while there, you might have been able to pick out 25, 30 types of vodka, and all of a sudden there are literally hundreds of different vodkas.
That's about the time, too, that the classic martini, either vodka or gin, started to become diluted and become fruity, frou-frou martinis.
Yes, of which I'm going to talk about in a minute, because you know me, I order those
Yes.
when we go out. I don't do that at home. So the classic martini for me is pretty. It's shaken, not stirred. It's just vodka on the rocks in a shaker, poured into an ice cold martini glass after shaking the shaker approximately, believe it or not, I do count 30 times. So I put the vodka on top of ice in my shaker, one of those metal shakers, not a glass one. I prefer the metal ones because it gets colder. Shake it really hard for about 30 shakes, and then pour it into an ice cold martini glass. And then add a couple of olives. They don't need to be staked on the little, that's how they do it in restaurants and stuff, and that's fine. My olives get dropped in. So it's a very undirty martini.
Yeah, and neither one of us care for the blue cheese stuffed olive. I know some people
Ew.
like that, but personally, just from an aesthetic point of view, I find that very unappealing because it makes it all cloudy and milky.
It clouds the water.
Right, and I only like a tiny little bit of blue cheese if I'm going to have it at all.
Right.
So I just don't care for that.
No.
That's a love-hate thing.
I'm in agreement. However, when I go to restaurants, as I just mentioned a second ago, I usually have a martini as my cocktail, depending on what they offer. But I like what she just said. What JoNell said was a frou-frou type. I like the ones that are just weird, but served like a martini. They don't need to have ice in them. The only accoutrement might be a slice of orange or a piece of pineapple or something in there. But I like the concoctions that the professional bartenders come up with. I don't do that at home. I have a nephew who does that. His name happens to be Robert too. He's very, very good at home concoctions. I don't do that. I'll save it for the restaurant. One of my favorites at the Aruba Beach Cafe down on Lauderdale by the Sea. JoNell and I have spent many a day in there at lunch after visiting the beach. That's kind of like a little go-to spot before we head home. They serve a thing called the upside down pineapple martini.
And I've had a sip of that. It does taste exactly like a slice of pineapple upside down cake.
It's really, really yummy. I have just one. Then I have my water with my usual my hamburger is usually
Right.
what I have there. But the Aruba Beach Cafe's got that, and it's really, really good. Another good one is on the other side of the state, over on the West Coast, the Chop City Grill, Naples, Florida. I almost always order the thing called silk panties. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's really, really
And
good.
it makes us laugh every time.
Every time, especially when we order it, and the waitress will roll her eyes, But anyway, it's
And
really
if you
good.
ask them why the name silk pennies, they just kind of shrug. They're like,
They
we
don't know. None of them
we
seem
don't
to
know.
know. We don't have any, but apparently the guys like it, so they order it. But it's a delicious martini. At the Tocado on Fort Lauderdale Beach, the the Oku Marini Martini, a combination of vodka, pineapple, lemon, black pepper, and oddly enough, basil.
Yes.
Weird.
It is weird. It sounds weird, but it tastes really good.
It looks odd too. It's got a little greenish tinge
That's
to a
from,
martini.
I think they muddle the basil.
Basil, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. So at home, it's a little bit different. I have my favorites though. Let's see. Let's go with. I know what I'm talking about. My favorite is my personal favorite drink that I do at home when I'm not doing a martini is the homemade mango daiquiri. And the reason I bring this up is everyone that visits us assumes they're going to get those. But it doesn't work that way because mangoes in the state of Florida are typically not ready until about late June, early July?
Yeah, June,
Does
July
that
is
sound
peak
about right?
season.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you have a warmer winter, they'll start coming in May.
We had a monstrous mango tree in our backyard in Fort Myers, which delivered some of the most beautiful mangoes you've ever seen. These things were kind of like grapefruit size, very, very sweet and delicious. And that's what I used. So I'm going to give you a recipe for a large one and then tell you if you find mangoes in the store, which you will, and they're smaller or pear-shaped, you might need two for this recipe instead of just the one. So what I do in a blender, I take one whole mango, I peel it, and I chop it, chunk it, and then put that into the blender. Then I put in a half of a 12-ounce can of frozen lime concentrate. All right, so they used to sell those little cans, which I think were 7 ounces, but now they sell the larger 12-ounce cans. At least I can't seem to find the smaller cans. So half of that can, about 4 ounces of water, and about 6 ounces of white rum. You can't go wrong with Bacardi. Just put good old-fashioned Bacardi. It alters the flavor quite a bit if you start playing with specialty rums or dark rums. I don't advise that. Go with a good old silver Bacardi is fine. Then fill the blender the rest of the way with cubed ice. Leave yourself about a half-inch of space for expansion, and then let it rip. Whenever we have guests at the house, like I said, this is probably the most requested frozen drink. It should come out nice and creamy. When you pour it, it should look like a McDonald's milkshake. Is that a good description?
I guess, even though I don't drink those, but you're asking the wrong person.
Oh, that's definitely off your roadmap.
Yeah.
But they're really, really good, and it's one of my favorites. You can alter that too. I mean, you don't need to do mango. You could throw strawberries in there if you wanted to, and I'm sure you'd come up with the same type of thing. But the lime gives it a certain kick added to the sweet fruit, so that sweet and sour mix just seems to work so well. Again, the bigger the mango you find, the fresher. You don't want those little baby hard ones that look like avocados. Probably not a good idea. You need something with a little more meat to it, but they are quite delicious. My go-to cocktail at home is almost something mostly mixed with vodka. So kind of getting away from the rum side of this. So my lovely wife, she dubbed vodka the clear food group.
That's right.
I believe that happened in Key West.
No, this was pre you, actually.
Oh my Lord.
A really good friend of mine and I were both going through life issues at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And we really kind of lost our appetites. We got together one evening and we had a bottle of Absolute and a bag of potato chips and we were happy. We didn't want anything else.
You gotten over that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're way past that point.
And then it was like, forget the potato chips. Let's just have more Absolute. So that was the Clear
The
Food
Clear
Group.
Food Group. Okay. You also came up with another hilarious phrase that I've told friends that they seem to like a lot. In the morning when you wake up and things just aren't quite right after drinking. Now, remember, now we don't really do this anymore. We're too old for this. Both of us are over 60. So back when we were in our 40s days, we would actually go in and she'd get up and she'd say, my low alcohol light is on.
That's right.
And I always thought that was one of the funniest things to say is my low alcohol
Low level alcohol light
is shining.
is flashing.
Flashing, yes.
That kind of happens in Key West after a night out on the town.
That's true. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to give you a few books here I want to run through right quick. Let's see, because we're going to get to JoNell and she's going to do appetizer stuff. So hang on here just a second. On the list, we've got the Hooters cookbook. Now, I picked these out of our collection, and then I went online to see if they're still available, and most of these are. So you may have to do a little hunting for them. Some of them are eBayed, of course. People are selling their own copies. This one is actually still available, but it's called the Hooters Cookbook. The reason I picked it out, first of all, I grew up in Clearwater where Hooters originated. I love their wings, and it used to be nothing but cold beer, but they also have all kinds of drinks now included in their menu. So I was leafing through this book. I've had this book for a long time. I don't remember exactly what the published date is on this. I'm going to say, the Hooters opened in 1983 back in Clearwater Beach. But anyway, it's got an awful lot of good recipes in it. But mainly, I wanted to give you this for the drink recipes. Lots and lots of good drink recipes. Miami Spice.
That's a great book.
Latin America, Cuban, and the Caribbean. This is still available. The New Florida Cuisine, they call it. I don't know what the date is on this, but I know it goes back.
I got that back in the mid-90s, I think. Mid to late.
This was a gift. This came from my Aunt Jeannie at Christmas. 1997.
Yep.
That's when we got this. It is still available. This has fabulous recipes for appetizers, yummy things to eat, desserts, but it also has a really good section of frozen concoctions, all kinds of neat little drinks and things back in the back of the book. So check that one out. Calypso Cafe. That's available on eBay mostly. I was unable to, I went and searched and did find it. It's not pricey. A lot of times when the book goes out of print, they'll just jack the price up. But this one's not bad. Let's see. Cooking up the best of island flavors from the Keys and the Caribbean. And I have no idea where this book came from, JoNell. This might have been one of yours. I don't think it's one of mine. But it has all kinds of really, really good fish recipes, which, by the way, we'll be doing here not too long from now. I have to get JoNell back on, and we need to talk about how she cooks. Oh, we had delicious salmon last night.
We did.
That was actually excellent.
It was too cold to grill, so just baked it in the oven.
It was delicious. But, it's because you know how to cook. So, last but not least of these books, the Florida Keys Cookbook. Recipes and Foodways of Paradise by Victoria Shearer, Shearer. This book is still available. I went online and looked. Great recipes, great drinks, there's a whole section on drink concoctions and things like that. But what was really neat is even how to do pulled pork and pulled for barbecue, things like that. A zillion different ways to do shrimp.
Yum.
Like Bubba.
Yeah, Bubba Gump.
Yeah, Bubba Gump. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to JoNell here for a little bit. She's going to give you some appetizers, things that we really, really enjoy eating. And by the way, she's really good at this. For those of you that listened back in the radio days, she was on Real Talk as the executive chef, and she really did a great job with morning stuff. But the morning things were more like breakfast items. The appetizers, sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Every now and then you brought something in.
Yeah, how did I wind up catering a radio show for almost 11 years?
I don't know. but you were pretty good at it. So I'm going to turn this over to her. Give us your first. Okay, what's most important in appetizers?
Well, something that will obviously to stimulate your taste buds, make you interested in having something to eat. So it's something that tastes really great, that goes well, say, with a cocktail, and kind of get you in the mood for the main dish that may be about to come.
Makes sense.
However, I think that a lot of times having an entire meal around multiple appetizers is a really fun thing to do. We've done that before, like on one of our many New Year's Eve parties that we throw for each other, which means we stay home and don't get into any trouble. And
The
I'll
in-house
just,
party.
yeah, I'll just make like a half a dozen really delicious appetizers and bring them out over the course of the evening. And that essentially, is in place of having a large meal.
Do I sense any jealousy from some of you listeners?
So there's one appetizer though that it's amazing. I think it's beloved by almost every man, woman, and child, and I don't. It's just this mysterious thing because it's the deviled egg. And there's many different ways to make a deviled egg. I'm inspired by the way that my grandmother and then my mother made them. So and I. It's like I don't even have the recipe written down.
What is the deal with a deviled egg?
But they disappear faster off of a buffet or appetizer table than any
Than
other.
anything else.
I've never seen anything disappear as fast as a tray of deviled eggs.
We've commented on this. JoNell will do this every now and then. That'll be what she brings to the party. And she'll make deviled eggs and put it on one of those round dishes with the slots, or she'll load them into a casserole dish and then just put them out on a plate. And there's all kinds of good things. There's little veggies, there's olives, there's celery, there's all kinds of stuff on there. And dips, chips and dips. But those daggone eggs will be gone before I can get to it.
Like you may have spent like over an hour making these suckers, and then you turn around in the blink of an eye, like 24 of them are gone.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But anyway.
So your recipe is?
And I'm not going to go into how to boil the perfect egg. You can figure that out on your own. I usually, like in a pinch, I go over to Publix and buy the bags of deviled eggs, which you can get now.
You mean the hard-boiled eggs?
Yeah, hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah, hard-boiled eggs.
So like, and this is based roughly on, say, you have a dozen hard-boiled eggs. You cut them in half. That's going to make 24 deviled eggs. So for the filling, so you want to, cut them in half and then get the yolks and put them into a mixing bowl. And here's the stuff that I add in. So, and I like using that famous onion from Georgia, which people from Georgia pronounce Vidalia. You may think it's Vidalia, but they say Vidalia, whatever.
Vidalia,
It's a really mild, sweet onion, so you don't get the overpowering onion taste. So, and you want to very finely dice, super fine, about a tablespoon, and the same thing with some celery, super, super fine dice.
Okay.
Then, say if you're doing a dozen eggs, about a quarter teaspoon of celery salt. It's kind of a secret ingredient that really makes it taste great. A small squirt of yellow mustard, about a teaspoon of lemon juice, and I do just a dash of Louisiana hot sauce. That's about it. You smush it all up, smash it with a fork, and then for the mayonnaise, I only use Duke's mayo.
Careful with the mayonnaise.
Right, and you do not want to put in too much, because if you put too much in, you can't take it out. Okay?
You get to start
Then
over.
you're in trouble. You don't want it wet and goopy and turning into like soupy.
Right.
So I usually start just with maybe a tablespoon.
Okay,
and,
so
and
very little.
stir it all in. Yeah. And if it's too dry, you add just a little bit more or just a little bit more. And you do not want it to be too overly creamy or squishy. Okay?
Got it.
Because you want the filling to hold its shape. Now, if you want to be fancy, you're taking them to a party, and you don't have a pastry bag, that you squirt the stuff out and make it all pretty, you just get a large, like gallon plastic baggie and put your filling in there and squish it into one side, into the tip, and snip the tip with some scissors, and you can squirt it right into into the whites.
Gotcha.
Now, I have a deviled egg plate, that has the little indentations. Everyone must have this, I believe. You need to add this if you don't have a deviled egg plate. I inherited mine from my grandmother, but you can buy them. Obviously, you can also order them online, and they're all fancy now or fun. I have one that's in the shape of a frog. I don't know why I have that, but I do. I have several different deviled egg plates.
Probably because you're queen of making deviled eggs.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, you squirt your little filling into all, fill them all about evenly, and you can put the sprinkle very lightly, not too much, of paprika on the top, and boom, done. You're ready to go. And as I said, you put them out, turn your back, they will all be gone.
Great. That sounds delicious. I'm almost ready for a break here. All right. So, okay. What's next?
Well, fish dip.
Ah,
So
oh, yes.
another thing that disappears in a flash is a really, really good fish dip.
I don't know why we'd be doing fish dip in Florida. Doesn't
Yeah,
make
well,
any sense.
The
No.
best way to get really good fish dip is, well, you can buy some that are really good. And here in South Florida, there's there's a couple of the stores, like our Total Wine liquor store carries this really good dip that's made in Key Largo
It's delicious.
by one of the fish houses. But the secret to good fish dip is really, really good fresh fish.
Yep.
Okay, so you're not going to be using, this is not about tuna fish and stuff like that and anything out of a can. This is, what you want to do is like when you're cooking your own catch, or you're going to the fish market and getting a really nice piece of snapper, grouper, wahoo, whatever, or even salmon.
Salmon. Yep.
Plan, like, buy extra. Okay, so don't just buy what you're going to eat for dinner. Make enough that you know you're going to have some leftovers.
And it doesn't have to be a whole lot of leftover
Yeah.
when you're doing the fish dip. So, say you're going to get, 12 ounces each, maybe close to 2 pounds of fish for dinner would do it, because you're each going to eat maybe 12, 13 ounces of fish. The leftover that you have is going to wind up being the dip. Just
Well, actually, a lot of times people only eat like eight ounces of
ounces,
fish.
yeah. I
So
mean,
then you got lots left over.
yeah, depends on how many people you're cooking for and who you're making it for. But once you're finished with dinner, you can just bag that stuff up, stick it in the fridge, and then a little bit later on, which, by the way, we have some in the fridge.
That's right.
Yeah, we're going to have to make some more dip. We had
So
fresh fish the other night.
one thing that I discovered, because one time I had gotten some fresh smoked mullet, and which is something that's very much a Florida thing. So if you come across it, get it, because it's really good. So you can just eat fresh mullet with some hot sauce or on a cracker by itself.
That's true.
But it makes really delicious fish dip on its own. But I discovered, because I had some leftover grilled fish, I mixed it with a little bit of smoked mullet, and that was one of the best batches of fish dip that I'd ever made. So now I'm the true believer in, like, you can, if you have two kinds of fish and you want to mix it together, that can really add to the depth of flavor. But we had salmon last night, so we're going to have salmon dip this afternoon. Just whatever you've got.
Now, what do you put in the dip? How do you come up with the dip itself?
The actual ingredients that go into dip is very, very similar to what I just described for the deviled eggs. And that's kind of where I developed my fish dip recipe. I kind of started with my deviled egg filling. So it's a little bit of diced onion, celery, a little bit of celery salt, dash of hot sauce, and just a squeeze of lemon or lime. Now, I recently made wahoo dip from you. Got some delicious fresh wahoo that was just caught like the day before,
Right.
and grilled it. And I took our leftover wahoo, because that was a gigantic piece of wahoo,
Yeah, it was.
and I added a little bit of horseradish, fresh horseradish. And that was really, really good.
I love horseradish.
And the same thing goes with the mayo. So I don't like it if it gets goopy. So you want to start out with just a little bit of mayonnaise. And so you still want the fish to be a little chunky, because you're not going to pulverize the fish. You're just going to do a fine chop on it so that you can see that it's actual
fish. That's fish, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's basically it.
What about relish? I like to add relish.
Oh,
when I
you
make
know
dip.
what? I forgot. I left that out of the deviled egg.
Of both of them. Okay,
That's
all right.
the secret ingredient.
I got
Oh my
her.
gosh,
I got her,
can't
folks.
believe it.
I got her.
I can't believe
I got
it. Wait, should we start over?
No, go ahead.
So for both the deviled eggs,
If you wrote down the deviled egg,
Yeah.
go back and write down relish.
yeah, and so you want to use sweet relish.
Sweet relish,
And
right.
for those of you that are watching sugar, there's one brand that you can get at the grocery store that actually is sugar-free sweet relish.
And you can't tell the difference.
No, you can't tell the difference.
You really can't.
So you want to put in like a heaping teaspoon of sweet relish.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah.
All
So
right.
for both deviled egg and fish dip, those are the magic
Okay.
ingredients.
Got it. That sounds good. I believe you have one more.
I do have one more.
Awesome. All right.
I
Let's
have
hear
one
this
more
up.
that's so good. This is another one that will disappear quickly, and it gets kind of pricey.
Okay.
So you kind of need to plan. Say if you're having a dinner party, this makes for a really nice appetizer. You know, if you're going to have a nicer a menu, and it's bacon wrapped scallops.
Oh, yummy.
So it is
Oh.
absolutely delicious. And so you're going to use sea scallops. These are the big ones.
Hmm.
We're not talking about the little small bay
Space cops.
scallops.
These are like 50-cent ppieces, only thicker.
Right.
Yeah.
And they can get pricey, you know.
Yeah, they can.
And you're going to allow at least 2 and maybe 4 per person. Just really depends on what else you're having, you know. Um, but they will disappear in a hurry. You know, occasionally you get somebody that won't eat bacon, and so that just means more for everybody else.
Yeah. Oh, darn.
So when you get them, you just want to pat them dry, just so that they're not overly wet,
Hmm.
with a paper towel. And you can actually pre-cook the bacon a little bit. So you can take bacon and put it either on a foil covered sheet pan or on a rack that's in a sheet pan, and put it in the oven for about 10 minutes and just do a little pre-cook on it. But then when you take it out, you want it to still be pliable. So you don't want to let it get firm, and let it cool, because you don't want to burn yourself. You don't have to do that, but it's just kind of a step that you can take. So what you're going to do is wrap each
And
scallop
the
in
reason
bacon.
the reason for that is that you're going to cook this under a broiler, so if bacon takes longer, you don't want to cook the scallop too long, right? Is that what you're trying to do?
Right. Actually, we're gonna bake them at about 400 degrees.
Oh, bake them. Okay.
But
All
you
right.
you can do it in a broiler, but you got to be extra vigilant.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. So you wrap the bacon around
Yeah.
the
So you're gonna
scallop.
take one slice of bacon
Hmm.
for each big scallop. So you're gonna wrap it, one way, and then twist and wrap the other way,
Okay.
so the scallop is completely covered. Secure it with at least
Oh,
one or
top,
two
top,
toothpicks.
bottom, and sides.
Right.
Okay.
So secure it with 1 or 2 toothpicks. And another hint, because you got your hands in the bacon, so get your toothpicks out ahead of time. So you're going to dump the toothpicks out of the box or the bottle, so that they're there for you and ready to use. And then you're going to put them on either a foil wrapped baking sheet or on a rack in a baking sheet, and you can put them in the oven at 400 degrees. And it depends on if you pre-cook the bacon, how long it takes. It's going to be anywhere from like 10 to 20 minutes usually. And at the at the end, you can put it on broil and just let them really get crispy for the last couple of minutes. But you have to watch it, you know.
Now, when you made these for us, you also made a little special dip that we
Well,
would dip these into.
yes, and actually that's a secret. And I found a bottled key lime mustard sauce that I couldn't replicate. I couldn't make one that tasted as good as that one in the bottle.
Yeah.
And I just looked it up online, and you can order it online, and I think Whole Foods has it.
What's it called?
It's made by a company called Flora Bean,
Okay.
and it's key lime mustard sauce, and it's
Yummy.
made with real key lime juice. It is the perfect accompaniment to a bacon wrapped scallop.
Wow. That sounds too good.
Mm.
I mean, okay, so now you got it. You got your libations, you got your drinks, got your frozen drinks, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, you've got the appetizers. And I am really, really hungry.
And I'm really sorry about forgetting about the sweet relish, because it's a really important ingredient.
You're allowed to do that. That's okay. And we decided to do this podcast more live than edit. So, see, we didn't edit it.
Okay.
We just fixed it at the end. Not a problem. So, anyway, I hope to have JoNell back again. Please send me some feedback. Let me know what you think about this podcast and some of the little changes. Having somebody else on, of course, made it personally more fun for me. And she knows an awful lot about stuff outdoors, too. So we'll probably come back and talk a lot about some of the places that she likes to visit, restaurants in the area, things in Florida that have to do with like places to stay and things to see. And she's been doing this tourism thing for a very long time. As a matter of fact, since about 97 or so, or before that.
Yeah, actually, I went to work for Cunard Line, the cruise line,
Right.
in 1997. And
97,
I've been
okay.
working in travel and tourism ever since.
Ever since. So we're certainly going to have to do this again. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Thank you, JoNell, for helping out. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend. Catch Outdoors is hosted by Anchor, available via Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Our Facebook page is Catch Outdoors. Website's catchoutdoors.com. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.